In a small town we're free.
This is the Patriots Prayer.
This is Bryson Gray, and you are watching the Patriots Prayer.
On the Patriots Prayer Network. Thank you all.
Can the chains that try to bound. Out on the fields where hard work's done, they fight the fight till the work's well won. No more silence in the heartland's call. Stand up strong, let the weak ones fall. The detox starts with Eddie and Nate, battling lies, exposing hate. Woke ideologies crumble and fade when real men step into the parade. Clear eyes and an iron will, they take on tides that others fear still. Voices of the field, the farm, the street. Two men stand and won't accept defeat. Against the storm of cancel waves, they light the fire, legends and braves. In a world trying to dim the flame, they keep it burning, they make a name. The detox starts with Eddie and Nate, battling lies, exposing hate. Woke ideologies crumble and fade when real men step into the parade.
Good evening, guys, and welcome to the Woke Detox. I'm your host, Eddie Smith, and we also have with me my co-host and good friend here, Nate Kane. And Nate and I, we got a lot of rabbit holes to go down tonight.
It'll be an interesting night.
Let's start with the Nunez and the. Where do you want to go? Do you want to go first to the drones? Do you want to where? I'll let you choose.
Yeah, let's start with Nunez. So, of course, Trump has just named Devin Nunes, the former chairman of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, and who is now running Trump Media and runs Truth Social. He's named him to serve as the chairman of a presidential intelligence advisory board. So I don't know exactly what that means and what exactly it's going to do. I don't think that all of that has been made public yet, but this is significant because Devin Nunes had access to a lot of information as the chairman of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, information that was basically is still there, but nothing was done with it because when Adam Schiff took over, he basically shut down all investigations, including the one that I had provided information on related to Uranium One and the Clinton Foundation and Hillary Clinton's crimes. And so I'm wondering if there could very well be a revival of that information and investigations done. Because guess who was working for Devin Nunes at the time I turned in all that info? Cash Patel.
Well, yeah, I was going to say Cash, but yeah.
Him and George Pappas were the two senior staff members to Devin Nunes, and George Pappas was my point of contact. But Cash was there, and he likely saw that info too, and now he's going to be the head of the FBI. So I think there's a reckoning coming for the FBI's cover-ups.
We're hoping so, but I tell you what, my biggest disappointment, Nate, and what I'm really like me and most Americans, we're tired of seeing these congressional testimonies happen and these little conflicts and back and forths and these arguments. And then that's the end of it. You came in, we yelled at you, go on with your life, keep committing the same crimes you've already committed. I would venture to say if 90% of the things that have came to light in the last 8, 9, 10 years, right, would have happened 30 years ago, I venture to say we would have seen people lose their lives over the things they've done.
Certainly there's certain things that I know exists that, amount to treason. And I mean, the FBI was saying it in their internal communications.
Like, I remember you saying they were using that, throwing that
Right.
term treason around quite frequently.
Espionage. The email server, what she did in bringing classified documents out of the FBI and putting them on her personal email server, that's textbook Espionage Act violations. And because you're talking about, worse. Oh yeah, I mean, there were
so much worse. Even when they were in Arkansas, right?
Yeah.
So Bill Clinton ran a bank, a federal bank called AGFA. I'm sure you've heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in charge of it. And what he was doing and how he was funding this campaign early on, besides, they were running major, big amounts of cocaine, right? And Roger Clinton took the fall for, I believe, his brother at the time. And and so you got these people coming in to see Clinton. Clinton's like, okay, and this is all in the documentary. It's all documented. But it was basically, it would come in and Bill would say, give me $200,000 toward my campaign to this PAC or whatever. I'll give you a $200,000 loan from AGFA. And then when I'm elected, I'll forgive the loan.
Mm-hmm.
And he did that. And then when they finally went to the White House and they got there, they fired everybody. There's a first presidential family in history that gets to the White House and then fires the entire staff.
Yeah.
And those late jobs, generational, passed on from father to son to mother to daughter, that have served every president, and they came in with a wrecking ball.
Oh, remember, they were renting out the Lincoln bedroom pretty much.
Now, I didn't know that they were renting the Lincoln bedroom out.
Basically, they were taking in money. They were by far the most greedy, presidential family that ever existed. I mean, just total greed.
Yeah, and
it's all about money for them.
Even when we tried to say the Bidens were, but I think that a lot of the things that the Bidens were doing is still caught up with the Clintons. It's still not too separate.
Well, the Bidens are bad. They're bad enough, but they're not. They're cut from the same cloth. But but the Clintons, I think they were basically, they were like organized crime. Remember, going all the way back to when he was governor of Arkansas.
Past tense. You're speaking past tense. It's not done yet.
No, it's not. It will be, though. I believe it's going to be. I had on my show. I did a pre-record today for my talk radio show, and I had a guest on earlier in the week, Joe Connor, and whose father was murdered by Marxist terrorists called the FALN back in 1975, and those guys were given, they were given like 75 years, and Bill Clinton in 1999 decided to give them clemency. These guys, they blew up over 130 bombs across the United States, killing countless Americans. And he gave them clemency because they were Puerto Rican Marxists. But the reason he did is because his wife was running for Senate, and they were hoping to be able to buy votes that way. I mean, these are disgusting, despicable people.
Yeah.
Satanic.
You saw Joe Biden also pardon that judge that got caught sex trafficking kids. And, here's the funny thing is the same organization that he was tied to that was doing that out of Guatemala. Well, that organization, guess who sat on the board of that organization? Jill Biden. So when they go down and they figure out what's going on there, and they were going to go down and they were going to start investigating, the man who was going to turn state's evidence on everybody, he's obviously he's dead now.
Yeah.
And
remember, you had they're all of these political families, they're all tied together. Remember, Hillary Clinton was the one that said it. If I go down, we all hang together, right?
And I mean, right on camera.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't like some backroom thing that someone recorded. She said that out loud for everyone to hear, and then it was the craziest thing. His plane lands on the tarmac. He gets off of his plane, and then gets on Lois Lerner's plane. Who is it? Is it Lois Lerner?
Yeah.
Yeah, he got on Lois. What was the
you're talking about the
AG, the woman.
No, that was oh gosh, I should know because she was the AG when I was there.
Loretta Lynch.
Loretta Lynch, yeah.
All right, so he gets off of his plane, boards her plane. Meanwhile, she's investigating his wife. They have a secret meeting. They sit there for half an hour.
Yeah, supposedly talking about wedding plans and crap like that.
Grandchildren and whatnot.
Yeah.
It blows my mind, and they do it right in front of our faces too.
Yeah,
that's the craziest part, because they're just sitting back and laughing at us all, because they're like, we can do whatever we want to. And when you look at it, Bill Clinton, his career, in just hindsight, you have to ask yourself, how in the hell did this man ever become president? Here's a guy who was a draft dodger. And he didn't just dodge the draft by not going. He went to Russia, and he actually slept outside in the Red Square. They said he used to sleep in trees. He wouldn't bathe for days and all this kind of stuff. And yet he's okay with sending our people to war, sending our sons and daughters and whatnot into harm's way. But he ran like a coward and wouldn't do it himself. I mean, anyone who's a draft dodger should immediately be inadmissible to run for public office. I mean, you should not be able to hold public office. Yep. There's no way in hell they got there without having something on somebody. I think their whole life has been one big like mafia movie.
Well, do you remember the video of her? It was either a video or record. I think it was a video. Of her being interviewed when she was just a lawyer, and she had represented some rapist and got him off, and she was laughing about it. Do you remember that?
No.
Yeah, and the person that she wrote her thesis about, right, was Saul Alinsky. You know, who wrote the book.
Obama's idol.
Wrote the book Rules for Radicals, and in fact, that book is dedicated to Satan as the original rebel.
Yeah, he's this is the same Saul Alinsky that the Rules for Radicals that Obama cited over and over again as a.
They've been following it, man, like a playbook.
They've been I'm trying to see if I can't find this this video you're referring to.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can find information on what Devin Nunes's.
Oh yeah, I have it.
Here it is. Oh, you found it? Okay. Yeah, bring that up.
I have it. It's a recording. She's on a call.
That's right.
And here we go. This is trippy. I've never heard this before.
I'm not hearing it, Eddie.
A lot of things.
Oh, there it is.
I have his polygraph, which he passed, which forever destroyed my faith in polygraphs. But what was sad about it was that the prosecutors had evidence.
Clinton on the same tape laughing about her client passing a polygraph.
He took a lie detector test. I have his polygraph, which he passed, which forever destroyed my faith in polygraphs. But what was sad about it was that the prosecutors had evidence.
So just dissect what she just said. It forever destroyed her faith in polygraph tests because she knew he was guilty.
That's right.
The prosecutor had evidence, and she's giggling about it.
Yeah, she also, remember, she's the one that said, she was laughing about, dropping bombs on the Middle East.
That's right.
I mean, she is a sick psychopath.
Taught her child to never refer to state troopers and that as sir and that sort of thing. They called them pigs. And even as a little girl, Chelsea used to refer to the troopers and that as pigs. And those troopers told massive stories about sneaking women to Bill Clinton and then covering his trails and all of that. They had, I mean, listen, it's not on YouTube for obvious reasons, but go over to Rumble and just type in the Clinton Chronicles. It won't take you long to find this documentary. I mean, watch it. Your eyes will be all the way opened. It's an amazing documentary. I've watched it multiple times because I pick up new stuff each and every time. And if you go into those places where they were in Arkansas and ask the regular town folk about these people, my stepfather, who just came out here with me, he came from Arkansas. And I mean, he shares these tales. He's talking about these stories of these people, and they know the Clintons are like down there. It's like they're like Scarface. Like that's how they look at these guys. And so if they are who they are, and you know, you've seen the emails, let's just detail let's just go down the list of Hillary stuff, right? So we know about the SEC violations. We know that she gamed the system on the commodities trading because she's got the world record for the most money ever made in one night in commodities. Like no one's ever done that before. Yeah. She's destroyed her server. They bleach bit the server. They beat it with hammers.
Yeah, which violates the law because all of those emails were subpoenaed legally.
And Bill Clinton was just on, and I'm going to find this real quick. Bill Clinton was just on The View.
And by the way, they were never pardoned for any of this stuff. Never. But the fact is that you know, the FBI never went after them. You know, they basically investigated them and found evidence and then decided to shut it down.
Well, that's the thing. I wasn't quite sure because that was the reason why James Comey got fired. Plain and simple. When Trump took over, he's like, really? So he's out. And then that's what Trump attributes the FBI targeting him, was when he fired Comey. He figured that was what stirred up the hornet's nest. But this was just the other day, right? And this is what he said. And as he's doing this, I'm gonna how many emails, top secret or otherwise?
It was 7 email chains that had special access programs. 7, which just to explain for people what a special access program entails. I've worked for 27 years in and out of SCIFs, been read on to several programs over those years. And a special access program, you have a top secret clearance, but then you have to be read on. You have to sign non-disclosures that are for life. You cannot take it back to your desk and view it, even though everybody in the SCIF has a top secret clearance, because none of those people have a need to know unless they're read on. And so you have to take it to a special room to read. You have to check it out from a security manager who opens a safe, makes sure that you are read on and that you are on the list. And then she carries it over to this special, room that you can review this stuff. I mean, this is not easy to get out of, a classified space. And you would knowingly be violating the law to bring this out of a space. It's not like you can just, walk it out.
Here's what he just said. And this is I'll give him this. Out of any president ever in my entire lifetime, I have never heard, even Obama does not hold a candle to Bill Clinton when it comes to, he can talk his way out of anything. Like, he is a skilled debater, talker. I mean, the guy is
skilled liar.
He is. I mean, without even batting an eye. Listen.
Unburdened by the pressure of re-election, with sweeping immunity granted to him, I believe, by the Supreme Court, and an alleged enemies list we're hearing. Do you think it would be wise of President Biden to preemptively pardon any potential targets? What about your wife, Hillary Clinton? She apparently is on Kash Patel's list. For what? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they got a problem with her because first, she didn't do anything wrong.
Of course.
Second, she followed the rules exactly as they were written.
Mm-hmm.
Third, Trump's State Department found, they remember how the emails were such a big issue in 2016? Trump's State Department found that Hillary sent and received exactly 0 classified emails on her personal device.
All right.
That is a complete lie because you can hear.
BS.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you right now. You can pull it
I
up.
got them listed. So top secret emails that were on that server. And don't forget, people, James Comey went on TV that day.
That's right.
And read
in
this
front of the
whole
J. Edgar
world.
Hoover building. I was working there. I was there at the day that he did that.
So top secret emails. She had 8 email chains that contained informant, classified, and top secret at the time they were sent and or received. Secret emails. She had 36 email chains that contained information of classified as that it was classified as secret. Then a confidential email. She had 8 email chains, not 8 emails, folks. Email chains, threads that contain information classified as confidential at the lowest level of classification. In total, 113 emails were found to contain classified information at the time they were sent and or received, and an additional 2,093 emails were later determined to contain information that was classified retroactively. So he ball-faced lied right there.
Ball-faced lied. And not only that, but those are just the emails that they had access to. Remember, there were 36,000 emails that were deleted, which violated the subpoena. So how in the world, the truth is they probably deleted everything they could find and they missed those ones. There were probably a lot more that were in those deleted emails.
But you know as well as I do, especially in government servers, there's probably not just one server. The server's probably copied and copied and copied and copied and have backups.
Well, her email that email server was not a government server. It was a personal one in her home in Chappaquiddick in the basement.
Correct.
So,
but
I can tell you right now,
exchange server, right? She was on an exchange server that was linked to her government account. So she duplicated the government settings to that exchange server in her own home and held the server personally.
Yeah, I'm not certain of all the details of it, but one thing I do know is that email server, one of the other things that Comey brought up that to me was just astounding. He makes mention that there was evidence that there were foreign adversaries had accessed that server.
Yeah,
and I contacted some buddies of mine. I wanted to know, what was the likelihood that what was their thoughts, and they brought it up and they thought it was the same thing as me. And I say buddies, I'm talking about former NSA guys that I worked with. It to me it was obvious that the server there was a Dropbox. She puts files on there and then gets paid, and these guys can go in and supposedly in air quotes hack that server, and now she's got plausible deniability. Comey said she was unsophisticated. Remember she was before the committee. She's like, they said, why did you wipe
breaking the law?
Yeah. So why did you wipe, those hard drives? And she goes, what do you mean? Like with a cloth? I mean, she's a famous liar too, but she's just not as good at it as her husband is. Because
here, I found this, Nate.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning. I'm here to give you an update on the FBI investigating Greg Clinton. What I want to do is tell you what we're recommending. But first, let me tell you what we found. 110 emails, 52 email chains have been determined to contain classified information.
What difference at this point does it make?
8 of those.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that brings up the what difference does it make? That was in reference to Benghazi when she was being grilled, by the House Oversight Committee. That's another thing that she is 100% guilty of. She called for the, basically the stand down when there was plenty of opportunities to save those guys.
Denied security detail.
Well, and the reason why was
because
that embassy held records of weapons transfers that went through the embassy there, and basically, made it through to Egypt, to the Muslim Brotherhood, to other groups, to Qatar, who then sent them off to Syria, to the Syrian, ISIS groups.
But let's not forget who attacked that embassy.
That's right.
The people who attacked that embassy were the same people that Obama himself let out of Guantanamo Bay.
Where do you think those people got their weapons? They got them from Hillary Clinton. So,
and then the famous, I love the story they tried to spin to everybody. It was, hey, this man, Sam or Fred, I forget his name. It'll come to me. He put a movie out on YouTube. And this was the story.
Oh, right. Yeah.
They said
saying that the Arab uprising, the Arab Spring, was due to a video. Give me a break.
A YouTube video.
Yeah.
This man made, and he depicted the Prophet Muhammad with a prostitute in the video, and that's why they were outside of the embassy, and they were rioting and doing all of these things. And then you see the email chain of them telling Hillary, hey, this is the statement we're going to make to the press. And then Hillary sends an email back. No, don't say that. Say this. And then they send another draft back. And then she corrects it again. And this went on like 3 or 4 times. And all of these drafts for these email chains were made public. And then you can see her literally telling them to lie to the press. And then we spent $60,000 or something like that on an apology tour in the Middle East, running commercials apologizing for the things that we did over there after 9/11. It was nuts. The things that were going on under the Obama regime were absolutely crazy. I mean, it was,
and it hasn't been a whole lot different under the Biden and under the Obama administrations. Obama was a little better about hiding his stuff. Joe's a little more blatant, and especially because of his son and things like that.
Yeah.
But
I think Joe was used. Listen, no one likes the guy. Obviously, he's not my favorite person in the world, but a lot of the things that he used to say back in the 90s and the early 2000s, I agreed with. Any sane person would. He said things like, you don't question how hard someone's life was, whether they had a good childhood growing up or not, when they're robbing your grandmother. You just want it to stop. You want to deal with it. You don't leave. He said when we were talking about leaving Iraq, he gave this whole speech about you get the people out first, then you get the military route, and you don't leave a single weapon behind, because if you do, they'll use them against your grandchildren. His words, his own words. So everything that you saw this man do, he just did a 180 completely. And the reason why he did a 180 completely is because they had him dead to rights. You know how the FBI turns people and they use people. And I'm sure they caught him doing some of these nefarious things that we all know about now. And this is what Jesse Waters on Fox reported, that they had 40 FBI informants that came forth. They knew about the FD 1023 form long ago and what they were doing, but they didn't arrest him. Instead, they got their claws in him and they used him to their own ends. And they probably still are.
But look at who they did arrest. I mean, that to me is the big thing, right? It'd be one thing if there was all this injustice and people getting away with crimes on both sides of the aisle, but that's not the case. January 6th is the best evidence of that, but you got other people too. You remember Douglas Mackey? He was the guy that was, social media influencer that posted a meme.
Oh yeah, that's right, about Hillary.
Got sentenced to prison.
Yeah, he got prison
federal
time.
jury for basically for satire. Now he's out now, but they did send him to prison, and then he was able. The Second Circuit Court of Appeals granted his motion for release pending appeal. And so I mean, it's like, remember the guy who, and I always bring this up because to me this is like the most clear example of just a total breakdown, a breakdown of the concept of equal justice under the law. Hillary Clinton walks free, after thousands of classified emails found on her, her personal email server, which was set up in order to avoid FOIA. Okay. Totally violating public corruption, violating the law, which was, put our country at risk because there were special access programs on there that could get people killed. And we know that there was foreign adversaries that access that server, all of that, right? Yet she doesn't even get indicted. Okay. She doesn't even get indicted because they shut down the investigation, but yet they indict, convict, and put in prison a man who, was basically working on a submarine and took a picture of his bed, his hot rack. That's it. The hot rack itself is not even classified, but taking a picture, he basically violated policy. That guy, they throw in prison. It's insane what we've seen happen in this country. The justice system is completely broken. I hope Pam Bondi and and Cash Patel, I hope they completely just they have a huge and difficult task ahead of them. There's no doubt about it, because even if they went in and fired everybody, unless they bring justice to all of the people who have had their rights deprived of them, all of the people who have been illegally prosecuted or who have been illegally spied on, who have had evidence withheld that could have exonerated them. There's a number of things that have happened that there needs to be justice. And I just
the bad
don't know.
part about that is that you cannot give, like, for instance, Kamala, the Kenneth Cooper, the man who had 18 years of his life taken from him because Kamala hid evidence that would have exonerated him. And, and then the funny thing is that Gavin Newsom was the one who sued her to get her to release the evidence that got the man out. And I'm not I'll just tell the truth. I mean, I don't care who it paints in a good light. It's just still the truth. But the idea is that, this lady took someone's life. There's no amount of money. Listen, 1 week in prison is too long. If for anyone who's never gone, never been there, you cannot explain to them. There's no storytelling capability, no movie that you've seen, no TV show you've ever watched that will give you the rundown of exactly what it's like to be in a place where your life is at risk 24/7. Imagine operating like you're in a real war zone and there are enemy combatants all around you all day long. Any one of them at any moment could snap and kill you. And it's always you like this every day, all day. That's what prison is. And she put a man through 18 years of that. And I mean, what can you do at that point? I mean, how can you possibly make that right?
Yep. Yeah. It is it's a travesty. They have an incredibly tough job. You cannot, no amount of money can get you back those years of your life. Maybe it might assuage some of the suffering that was, that happened during that time. But these guys, man, their lives, are completely turned upside down. So, think about all of the men whose wives and their children had to fend for themselves while they were rotting in jail because they couldn't get a fair trial. It's just, it's sickening. It's completely sickening. So, let's move on to another topic because this one's pissing me off.
I'm with you.
All I'll say is this: is that Trump is appointing, I think, the right people this time. He's appointing people that want to see, as Ivan Raiklett calls it, righteous retribution.
Retribution, yeah.
And that is something that there should be. There should be a price to pay for the crimes that these, these people in power, have committed.
But just imagine, though, Nate. I mean, if they start arresting this one tells on that one tells on this one. I mean, how much of our government is left? And at what point do they say, okay, we have to go at this kind of tactfully because we can't arrest the whole government. Who's going to arrest them? But that's how many people.
Well, they could do it in the Trump administration if they, because you're talking most of the people who committed all these crimes are the ones that are currently in there, the ones that were previously in there. It's not the ones that are going to be in there now. But this is why I think there was much more that was going on. The FBI, saying that when in reference to Hillary Clinton's investigations, that there were things that could bring down the entire government because they were all corrupt. So I think that's what they were talking about. I think it was a lot more than just Hillary Clinton. I think there were a lot of people involved in criminal activity, and I think they were tied together, and I think they were making money together. I think you have
mutually
multiple
assured destruction.
That's right.
It's a mutually assured destruction, and they know that if you take me down, I take you down, and he takes him down. So it's just one giant kind of a powder keg ready to go off. And then, not to mention how many of these people were being controlled by folks who were not in our government, who are overseas and in foreign governments. So that is prevalent. I mean, look how many of these people are married into the Soros family. Yeah.
Well,
quite a few.
And look at, that's one of the things that I remember hearing a lot is always look at the wives. Like many of these corrupt people, their wives work for law firms or, that are involved. Like I think it was it Director Ray or was it Rod Rosenstein, who's one of them, their wife basically was directly involved with the Clintons. It's like these guys are that's one of the reasons why I think Trump is making the right decision this time of avoiding, hiring, inside people, right? He's picking outsiders. He's picking people that are not part of the system because the system is corrupt.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. I'm absolutely glad that he's not taking somebody from the inside. We need to replace these people. The government needs to be given back to the people. That's really what it is. And well, yeah, we can sit here and just go down.
I could go down all night.
All day. The main thing that gets me right now before we leave that topic is just having lost years of my life for not even a fraction of a percent of compared to the criminality of what these people have done, and to see them act the way that they do, it just it pisses me off more.
I have a great transition into our next story. So, one of the people in this current administration that needs to go to jail, who is probably one of the most corrupt people within the Biden administration, is Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. This guy is responsible for what has happened at our border. He is responsible, for a lot of the censorship industrial complex. He is responsible for a lot of the crap that has happened in our elections because he is, over CISA as the Department of Homeland Security. And recently, in fact, I think it was today, he basically was talking about the drones that are flying over New Jersey. And he basically says that he insists that there's nothing the federal government can do about the recent New Jersey drones because he has no authority.
That's right. But before we get into that, let's take a quick break for our sponsors, and we'll come right back and jump into that. We'll be right back.
Introducing the Trump token, America's cryptocurrency, a digital revolution to make America great again. Built on the high-performance Solana blockchain, the Trump token merges the economic principles of Bitcoin with the speed, scalability, and efficiency of modern technology. Designed to empower politically engaged communities, the Trump token taps into three major demand ecosystems: the Trump community, global cryptocurrency enthusiasts, and the internationally recognized Trump brand. In a world of financial uncertainty, the Trump token stands as a scarce and durable digital asset, positioned for growth within a rapidly expanding global market. Powered by Solana, the Trump token offers lightning-fast transactions, unparalleled scalability, and robust security, making it the ideal currency for both everyday use and political engagement. With a total supply capped at 21 million Trump tokens, 10 million are available for pre-sale at just $10 per token. In a powerful show of support, 50% of all pre-sale proceeds will be donated to Donald J. Trump's 2024 presidential campaign via super PACs. That's right. Up to $50 million of crypto in kind will be donated to ensure Trump wins. On top of the donation, 40% free additional Trump tokens will be distributed over 36 months to all pre-sale participants who hold. Check out our official white paper for more. Driven by a decentralized governance model, the Trump token empowers its community to shape its future, ensuring the token remains aligned with the values of its supporters. Together, let's make America great again. Go to thetrumptoken.com to get involved. The Trump token. Own America's cryptocurrency now.
So we have an updated version of that, and I thought I was grabbing the updated version of that because obviously we won. Check that
yes.
out. And those guys did give pretty good sized donation to Trump, and now they're moving on and they got their eyes focused on the midterms. So we're going to be working with them on their next project as well. And those guys are sound. They are.
Yeah, I got to get their new commercial actually uploaded for my other show as well. Because,
they just sent it to me, and
okay.
I thought I pulled it into this brand, but I guess not. My camera keeps moving, and I had to stop it.
Sorry,
so
we'll take it out of your pay.
But so you're right. Alejandro Mayorkas goes on record saying the federal government doesn't. Let's just start at the beginning. So Van Drew says there is a mothership off of the coast of the East Coast, and that mothership is launching drones into the interior of the country. And then, and I got some of this too. Then the State Department had nothing to say until he said that. Within an hour, they were making a statement. Within an hour, and then I was able to get an interview with Senator Ed Durr out of New Jersey, who said point blank that this guy Van Drew is not a bullshitter, for lack of a better. He's not going to say that if someone hasn't told him that. And so his sources, whether or not it's true or not, he believed his sources. And now Van Drew just earlier today doubled down on that statement. He's still not backing off of the statement. But yesterday, the statement you're talking about, Mayorkas sits down and says that the federal government doesn't have the authority to shoot down these drones in some citizen. So I was talking to Durr about this on the phone. I'm like, I'm so surprised. Some of these citizens just haven't taken out long range rifles.
Oh, they've been.
And then right after we said that, somebody did that. And but yeah, I mean, what is that? I mean, you know better than me, but I would think that the federal government federal government, Air Force, whatever the case may be, has the ability, the right, the authority, and the obligation to take these down.
It begs the question, is the government not telling us something? I've heard some people say there's some reports that supposedly from people leaking information that these are sniffer drones that are sniffing for for nuclear weapons or something like that. Well, I don't necessarily I'm not so sure about that, because for also some of the other people that I've seen talk about this make claims that, and I don't know, I will just tell you that was never my expertise, but some other people have made claims that It's not the case because those types of drones are much lower to the ground when they're doing sniffing operations. But here's the thing. We know we have history that we can look back on. But we actually know that Biden has no problem allowing foreign adversaries to fly across our airspace. China did it with a balloon that was high enough that if they had had a nuclear weapon attached to that had gone off in that high atmosphere, it would wiped out 1/3 of the electronics in the United States.
Do you see that right there? This is in New Jersey local news filming. That is not some little drone.
No, you're right. It's a good right now. We have no idea what it is. If it's it's important to differentiate between drones and UAPs. I would say that is a legitimate UAP. It's something totally unexplained. The likelihood is it has, and I've seen things, that in reports that I can't get into, where the government does not know what the hell something is. Okay. That's why they call them unidentified, because they can't figure it out. But that's not what we're talking about, though, with the drones, the slow moving drones that, that a lot of people have been reporting. And I think a slow moving drone that's the size of a, SUV that's moving into our airspace from over the ocean absolutely should be shot down while it's over the ocean. So let me bring up, though, I want to bring up, this is what was being said by in that conversation.
Donald Trump, he just called on the Biden administration for you guys to either release any information it has about these mysterious drone sightings or shoot the drones out of the sky. How do you respond to the president-elect?
Well, first of all, the statements I've made already are the principal message that I want to communicate to the American public. We haven't seen anything unusual. We know of no threat. Secondly, we have gone to Congress repeatedly asking for more authority to counter drone activity. And we have also asked for more authority to give to the state and local officials under our supervision, because he correctly notes those authorities need to be expanded.
I want to play something another New Jersey congressman, Republican Jeff Van Drew, said about the drones over his state in New Jersey. Listen to this.
We're not being told the truth. They are dealing with the American public like we're stupid. They don't know what it is. They don't know what it's about. They haven't taken one down to analyze it. They have no idea where it comes from, but they know that it's not that. I mean, that's nonsense. They do not know what they're doing. Why don't they take one of them down, analyze it, and let us know what's really happening?
What do you say to the Congress?
Well, first of all, we have experts, and he should not diminish the extent of their expertise and the extent of their dedication to the well-being of the American people. These are individuals who dedicate their careers to the safety and security of the United States of America, number one. Number two, it's not as though anyone can just take down a drone in the sky. That in and of itself would be dangerous.
Do you have the authority to shoot down drones?
Our authorities are very limited. That is precisely why we have gone to Congress to expand those authorities. Our authorities are limited by the United States Coast Guard in the maritime environment, the United States Secret Service in its protection of our national leaders.
These guys, they continue to lie to the American people. They have no moral compass, and
none.
Either they know what it is or they don't. And if you don't know what it is, which is what they're saying, then how can you say you have any experts? I mean,
this
guy
the same guy.
In circles.
This is the same guy who continually went to Congress for more money to build what we call FEMA camps, with hundreds of thousands of beds across the entirety of the United States, but nobody's in them.
Yeah,
nobody's in those facilities. All these beds, all these you know, coffin liners and just all over the hundreds of thousands. And no one's in these beds. We have all these criminal aliens, which means anybody who comes and anyone who comes across that border illegally, criminal alien, period. They say they don't have space for them, but they have all these facilities that they're not using. They're not using these facilities. So it doesn't make any sense to me in a world. Why do you need more money to build facilities you're housing nobody in?
Well, when you ask the government, just like in this case, right? What is their response?
Yeah.
Nothing. It's crickets on the other end.
And when Jesse Ventura, who I'm not the biggest fan of anymore, when Jesse Ventura went and did his whole story on this situation, they denied the existence. He's like, what do you mean? I was just there at one. Yeah. I walked up to its front door. There were kids playing on swings inside this facility. There were playgrounds and houses with barbed wire fences and guard towers and all of this. What is it for?
Yeah.
And it's not the only one. They're all over the place.
No, so they built one of these facilities in Parkersburg, West Virginia, and it's in my, in my district. So when I was campaigning, this came up, in discussions with concerned citizens. What happened, what they found out was that not only did they have, of course, medical facilities, and it's supposed to be a facility for emergency, situations. But if that's the case, why do they have jail cells and why do they have courtrooms?
Yeah.
So,
yep. And listen,
can you imagine?
You guys know a lot more than what they're telling.
Oh yeah. Now, thank God that Trump won. If he had not won, I think we would have been looking at, just a horrendous situation, not because of just another 4 years, which that would be bad enough of having the Bidens, but I think they would have moved on to their next goal, of locking us down further, of going after, conservatives, weaponizing the Justice Department even more. I think they would have looked at, trying to force a martial law type situation. I mean, hell, they still could. But I think they're going to be hard pressed to try to pull that off now, because the media largely has already capitulated. They realize that Trump and the American people, are a force to be reckoned with. And I think that their plans, are shot. But we have to be careful that we don't let our guard down, because
at all. Yep.
Yeah,
Agreed.
We cannot, because I guarantee you they're gonna try again to cheat in the next election. That's why we have to finish the fight. We've got to ensure that we do the things necessary to clean up, the way that we do our elections. We need to continue to push our state legislatures, to enforce the existing laws. And if the laws are screwed up, we need to create new ones in order to ensure that there is a accurate, counting of the ballots. Honestly, I think they should get rid of the tabulators. I don't have a problem necessarily with the DREs, because at least you can see a printout of what you put in, but the tabulators, that's kind of a blind trust, and I don't trust it, and most Americans don't. And I think that's the other thing, is that we have to ensure that there's a paper trail. And then the biggest thing that's even more important than that is we have to make sure that we've got clean voter rolls. And that's a problem everywhere. So we've got to be on guard and watch and make sure that they don't try to, to basically overthrow our government, in 4 years through, fake elections again. But this stuff here, what's disturbing about it is I did see a report that there is a drone ship that Iran has that has left the port, of where it was at in Iran. So whether that is involved in any of this, I don't know. But I do think we're talking about different situations that often get conflated.
Well, here's what you mentioned earlier, that the media is now like, they realize they've been beat. And a lot of them are changing their tune when it comes to Trump. and I find it kind of funny on like how badly, because you know who Van Jones is, right?
Oh yeah.
CNN. Look.
Donald Trump is not an idiot. Donald Trump, let me just be very clear. Donald Trump is smarter than me, you, and all critics. You know why we know? Because he has the White House, the Senate, the House.
Totally agree.
Court, the popular vote. He has a massive media ecosystem bigger than the mainstream built around him and for him, and a religious fervor in a political movement around him. And his best buddy is the richest person in the history of the world, and the most relevant Kennedy is with him. This dude is a phenomenon. He is the most powerful human on earth and in our lifetime. And we're still saying, well, how was this guy? We look like idiots to ordinary.
You're totally right.
Yeah, where was that just a couple months ago?
Yeah.
Where was that? They were all so sure Kamala was going to win. Now Trump is a genius. Now Joe Scarborough is meeting with him.
Yeah. That was rich, to see them, go there, hat in hand, begging and pleading to mend fences. Whatever, man, I'm fine with it. Honestly, I think these guys have just proven, that they are worthless. They are they've been lying to the American people, and the American people know it. We're seeing more and more people waking up to the truth. And it's only beginning, because once Trump takes power and he begins to enact some of these things, it's going to be very clear that our lives are going to get better. I mean, I know that like the cost of everything has gone up so ridiculous now that I've had to tighten my belt significantly. My taxes, I'm getting, basically raked across the coals because I have a small business, and I can't continue to grow my business because I'm too indebted to the IRS. So we've got, there are things that I think we're going to see a change in the quality of our life. I think we're going to see a change in opportunities. And when Doge starts cutting all of these government, waste and all of that stuff, where's all that? First, obviously, some of that money is going to go towards, paying down our debt, but eventually it's going to come back to us, and we're going to feel that. We're going to see.
Here's the problem, though. Here's the problem. You remember they had to break up AT&T because it was a monopoly, and it was the divestiture happened, and the Ma Bell was split, and all that kind of stuff. Well, we don't have any laws on the books that prevent people like BlackRock or Vanguard or any of these guys from creating these investment houses, these conglomerates.
Right. They don't own the 100% of anything. They just own a little piece of everything.
They own, well, not just a little, they own the controlling interest.
Yeah. It's almost like a reverse. It is a monopoly, though.
It is a monopoly. We need to do something. We need to do something, because that's how they control the media.
Right.
Because the advertising dollars.
I'm trying to remember who is it that is over antitrust? Is that the FEC? I mean, not FEC, the SEC,
Google,
Securities and Exchange.
The Securities and Exchange Commission. This is exactly what just happened with Google, and Google lost that big lawsuit.
Yeah, I think Trump. Who did he? Has he announced SEC yet?
No, I don't believe so. I'll look right here while you're.
So I think, that. Oh, it does say he's nominated. No. That's not for that. That's for Secretary of State. Let's see. Yeah, I don't see yet, but I think that whoever he picks for that is going to need to be a hardliner that's going to go after these monopolies, including including these oligarchies, because here's the thing. A lot of people will say, well, Facebook and, when you've got Google and Facebook and X, all right, let's say are the three biggest, they will say, and previously it was Twitter, they would say, well, no one of them owns all of the share of everything. They all are separate. So it's not a monopoly. However, there's a provision within the antitrust laws that forbids cartels. And the cartel is when you have two or more companies that basically own the majority, and they are manipulating things and causing antitrust, type
That's what they're
behavior.
doing. That's what they're
That's
doing.
exactly what these guys, State Street,
BlackRock,
BlackRock, and Vanguard.
BlackRock just put in right before the Trump assassination. There was a large amount of put options on Trump Media Group. True.
How is it that both assassins,
were BlackRock?
Have connections with BlackRock?
But
That's fascinating.
Here's the crazy part, though. So the investment firm takes their millions of dollars, their bet that the True Social stock is going to crash prior to the assassination attempt. And then when it doesn't happen, the investment firm gave them their money back.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't even lose their money. They got a refund. How in the hell do you get a refund? You ever try to get a refund? Oh, my stock went down. Can I get a mulligan? Does that work for the average person? It doesn't happen that way. The playing field has to be leveled. And this is the problem. We've lost our sovereignty. We started dealing internationally, and these companies have gotten bigger than the United States itself. And now we're dealing with multinational corporations that, quite frankly, can be more powerful than any politician.
Yeah.
And their say-so can have far-reaching implications that could, basically do anything. Can shut down a whole TV station, can end anyone's career with a phone call. It's very easy to do when you own literally everything. When you own Fox and CNN and Newsmax. Right. I mean, they own them. If they're on that, if they got that 51% share and they're sitting on that board, their word has sway.
Yep.
And I mean, this is why we looked at the housing market. For all intents and purposes, the housing market should have crashed. We saw inflation go through the roof. Salaries went down after the pandemic. Everything was in the toilet. So how in the hell was the housing market going up? I'll tell you how it's going up. Because I'm in the commercial real estate business and on the development side. And I'll tell you, Zillow, BlackRock, all these companies were buying all these homes sight unseen and listing them on the market and not dropping the prices no matter what, because they didn't need the money. They didn't need the money. So what it did
was about manipulation. Yeah.
They were falsely inflating the housing market.
So I was wrong. It's not the SEC. It's the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission.
Trade Commission, yeah.
Okay, so this is interesting. All right, so Andrew Ferguson, who's currently serving, right, as the FTC commissioner. It's a commissioner, Mark Meader, is a former antitrust counsel to Senator Mike Lee and partner at Crescent Meader. He's been nominated to join the FTC. So he's clearly an antitrust guy. But what's even more important, because all they can do is basically, refer for an investigation, right? The Assistant Attorney General, Gail Slater, is an antitrust veteran and former economic advisor to Vice President-elect J.D. Vance. So she is going to be the one who is going to be Assistant Attorney General. I think that's important because so it does look like there are some antitrust people being put in there, and I think that's important because they got to break these, break the power, of these corporations that basically are running things.
And we also need to stop the sale of sovereign land to foreign entities in this country,
without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt. Well, Trump's already, and not just that, but like Trump's already expressed that he doesn't want the Japanese buying U.S. steel. And I do think that that's a serious problem. We've got a problem in America where I think we basically have very few U.S. owned. I think we're down to 2 now, steel mills, and that's not a good thing. That's a very
U.S. steel and oh man,
I can't remember
I deal with them like all the time.
Yeah, we had one up in West Virginia in the Panhandle, and they shut down last year.
Well, in there was Bethlehem Steel that was there as well. You had steel mills in Allentown, PA. They were all over the place. We had a very big steel presence back east.
So I think they're going to go after Google, though. I think that's why they picked Gail Slater. The New York Post had an article about it, in fact, where they basically said that she is drawing praise from anti-monopoly advocates who said it sent a very strong signal to Google and Apple that they're going to remain under significant pressure as blockbuster cases against them play out. So I think that's good. We need to see that.
So
the problem's going to be is there are things about Google in particular, Alphabet Inc. There are public-private partnerships that need to be exposed and the truth needs to come out about it. I've talked about it a little bit. I'm a little hesitant to get into it too much, but there are things that the government does with these companies like Alphabet Inc., companies like Meta, okay, and other big tech companies that should make most Americans deeply concerned about what the hell their government is up to.
I kind of understand what you're referring to or alluding to because I've seen those org charts.
Yeah.
And it's quite scary. And most people don't realize it, but they profiled themselves to a point. I mean, you profiled yourself into oblivion. There's no way if they wanted to get you for anything, you've done it to yourself.
Do you remember the movie? With Tom Cruise,
Vanilla Sky.
No. But that's another interesting one. But no, I'm talking about the Minority Report.
Minority Report with the precogs.
So, so they had these these psychics, right? And they use these psychics to talk
about future crimes.
Yeah, talk about who's going to commit future crimes, and they would arrest them before they. I mean, honestly, we're pretty much there with AI. Okay, AI. They think that AI can be extremely predictive, and I think we're not too far away from them coming up with some sort of scheme, some sort of intervention scheme.
It's not that I don't believe it, though. It's not that I don't believe that AI can predict some things, but what AI can't do is tell you what you will choose to do. Because in any given situation, you can choose to just lose it, and they can look at a pile of data and they can say based on the average human response to this stimuli, 80% of humans act this way, and based on everything we know about character A over here, he has an 80+% chance of responding to said stimuli this way. Go get him.
Yeah,
but he might not. This is a complete guess. But I heard about them talking about this.
The thing with AI that I think is going to be interesting. I don't think Congress is even. I don't think they're looking enough into this. I think they need to be looking into the ethics of AI.
How many of them actually understand it?
They probably don't. I mean, to be honest with you, and I'm pretty well up to date on a lot of technology stuff, but until I, a couple of years ago was involved in a project involving AI and development, I didn't even understand that, some of the basics of it. Like you've got training mode and then you've got, or learning mode, and then you've got, fixed where you're not allowing any kind of learning. And people don't understand that. And that's kind of important too. But like they should have laws in place that don't allow, for example, learning mode to be turned on, in production environments for certain things.
We have IEEE standards. In the normal world. So this is basically the standard for how chips have to be programmed and programs have to be written, or there are certain standards that have to be followed, and it can be something as stupid as how often you have to put a decimal point, but it must be followed.
And they need to be looking into this, but they also need to be looking at the ethics of where they need to be thinking 10 steps down the road Where could this lead? The law of unintended consequences. Where
No,
could
well,
this lead? And and what can we do to prevent it from going there? And I don't feel like they're doing that enough.
Well, they're out to deceive us. I got a little interview, and I was showing this to my wife last night, and she's typically not interested in anything political, but I showed her this, and it was interesting even to her, and what this man was talking about, and he didn't call it blue beam, but he was referring to blue beam. You gotta see it to believe it. And we talked about this before, the grand deception, right? The grand deception. And I believe that's what he's alluding to in this video. And you'll understand. Here, let me back it up.
That's a perfect segue, by the way, into talking about what's going on in Israel and
I served in the United States
stuff.
as a top secret operative, but not in a category that is commonly known or understood. I was known as a man in black. Following 7 years acting as a counterintelligence agent for the CIA, I was recruited for a new assignment that entailed working within above top secret operations. I was aware of the black budget projects, but never knew the context of them due to their high level of secrecy. Even the president was denied access to their inner workings. Annually, billions of dollars are poured into black projects, which operate without any supervision or intrusion. They have full autonomy. Now the grand finale. This is some scary shit. In March 1997, an event known as the Phoenix Lights became the most infamous UFO sighting in history. A mile-wide vessel, clearly not man-made, flew slowly and silently over the state of Arizona and was witnessed by 10,000 people, including the governor of Arizona. To date, there has been no reasonable explanation. But for every witness interviewed, the craft was as real as anything they'd ever seen. Their lives were transformed. They now believe that we truly are not alone. However, there is another truth, for I know what they really saw. In 1986, while stationed at an underground installation near Boulder, Colorado, I was introduced to Project Skybeam by Lieutenant General Andrew Garris. I was then led down a corridor and into a large hangar where a stealth bomber hovered only 20 feet above me. I stood there confused. Then Garris looked over at me and smiled, then asked if I was certain of what I was seeing. I replied, of course. What else could it be? I was then shocked to find out that this wasn't a real craft. It was a projected hologram. Since the early 1950s, scientists have been developing holographic technology, and over the years improved it to a state that we can only imagine. As I stood there staring at the bomber, which looked so absolutely real and solid that I could reach up and touch it, I contemplated the possibilities. What if this projection was 1,000 feet up in the sky? How would anyone know that that was an illusion? The Phoenix Lights craft, witnessed by 10,000 people, was the first grand-scale skybeam test upon the public. It succeeded beyond expectations. In October 1938, Orson Welles unleashed his War of the Worlds radio broadcast to the American public. It was so realistically portrayed, vast portions of the population went into panic. Terrified citizens scrambled to evacuate their cities in droves. America had been easily tricked by very simple means. To amplify this response, those who are truly in power, not only our country, but all the countries on the planet, and who are the true purveyors of the depopulation process, have formulated the final stage of their sinister plan. In the year 2024, a global event will alter the course of mankind's future. The world will stand witness to a massive alien invasion. Thousands of projected holographic alien warships will blanket the skies, sending people into a global panic. Real military crafts within the holograms will inflict actual damage to the surrounding areas to sell the gimmick. And as a result of the ensuing human chaos, a one world government will immediately form without any resistance from the people. They will be the new world order. Once this happens, we as a people will be doomed to enslavement and accelerated depopulation. With that said, the only hope for human salvation is to acquire and spread the knowledge of these activities and agendas. Resist, retaliate, then conquer this imposing enemy. The time is now, as humanity is rapidly approaching its final days.
So this topic is, it's a one that I have to be very careful about. I've worked in some very sensitive stuff and had access to some very sensitive stuff, and the existence of this project I can neither confirm nor deny. I'll just say that.
The interview I had with Ed Durr the other day, he referenced this.
I will tell you this, that there are things the government can't explain. Those things tend to move pretty fast. These things move in slow, and especially when they're trying to shoot them down and they're not able to, like this guy that was shooting at one, the other day, that was flying slowly, over the ocean. Maybe there's a reason it's not, getting shot down.
Well,
I do think that we have to be concerned about this. Now, whether the technology exists or not, I'm not going to comment on. But whether or not they have the capability of pulling off something that massive in scale around the world right now, I don't know. And I really do think that I think they screwed up with COVID. And I'll tell you why. I think COVID was their attempt at seeing if they could push us to mass control and massive giving up of our rights, and it largely succeeded. But
it numbed us. It numbed a lot of us to whatever they might do next. We won't believe it.
Yeah, exactly. I think it woke a lot of people up, and I think people have learned and have learned not to trust their government as they should have a distrust. There should be a natural distrust in all of us, especially when, and I'm not saying, I'm not opposed to our government. Obviously, I think Trump will do a great job, but I think that we should always have a healthy level of skepticism at anything the government tells us. We shouldn't trust them simply because they're the government. We should demand proof. And we know that the government has a history of lying to people, propagandizing people, deceiving people for their own purposes. Whether they think they're good purposes or not, that's just the facts. And so we have to always take everything they say with a grain of salt, but especially when the government and the media are parroting the same, and the corporations are all in lockstep working together, that's the moment you should definitely know not to trust it. And that is why I never trusted anything about COVID from day one. Anything the media said, anything the government said, anything that the corporations they were all in league with one another. And it was
Absolutely
clear to me that it was a grand conspiracy.
And there were 5 African countries, and 5 African countries. And there were 5 African countries where 5 leaders all said, we don't want the vaccine. All 5 of those leaders are dead now.
Yeah.
All 5 of them. Remember the Haitian president was executed. I could look up the other 4 African countries, but there were actually a total of 5 African countries and the president of Haiti. They were all executed. And then you've come to find out that pharmaceutical companies turn around and say, well, you don't need to pay us money. If you can't afford it, give us a military base. What the hell does a pharmaceutical company want with a military base? But that's exactly what happened. But this is, I called it the grand deception, because I had, from a teenager, from long before any of this was even a concept, I saw this picture being painted biblically a long time ago. And I said, they're going to fake an alien invasion. And
I
then
have
they're
felt
going to
that
make,
same way. You know, when I read in Second Thessalonians early on, you know, after becoming a Christian, I was 16 years old, and I started reading the Bible, and I came across the scripture that talks about how, you know, the great apostasy and the great deception that'll be so massive that if it were possible to deceive even the elect, that they would fall for it.
exactly. They will
And
fall.
and I really do, you know, I was thinking at the time, it was right around the time that the movie Independence Day came out. But I had this like kind of vision ahead of time of massive UFOs coming in and, you know, and basically showing up in the end of days, you know, making claims that they were God, that they created us with, you know, advanced genetics, and there was no God, and that, you know, if we want to believe in God, we should worship them. Then all of a sudden that movie comes out. And what was interesting about that movie, you remember the scene at the very beginning where the clouds were rolling and there was like fire in the clouds and all of that? That was like this vision that I had seen. And I would not doubt at all that that is, you know, what's going to happen, and that it will be a big deception. You know, there's talk about that one of the beasts, right, will be, you know, will be able to, you know, have like supernatural powers and have, you know, the power to foretell, you know, the future and things like that. I'm telling you, I think it could possibly very well be an AI, you know? And so I think, you know, we have to look kind of through that lens when we're looking at these things. We do have to look through biblical prophecy and not necessarily, you know, see a demon under every rock, but we should absolutely be aware and consider, you know, does this line up with scripture and what scripture says about, you know,
We were talking about it. We talked about it last week.
show
People were encountering angels, just like the Bible says, and they're unaware they're speaking to an angel.
That's right.
Satan was cast down out of heaven as an angel of light, and his followers in the image of righteous men. There were many angels that fell. A third of the angels fell to earth. To earth, folks.
Well, and if you know, and a good place to start for folks that are interested in kind of, you know, studying maybe some extra biblical books, the book of Enoch is one that was is quoted from in the New Testament by Jesus
twice.
and his disciples.
Twice. Jesus quoted it once, and then it's quoted in the book of Luke and in the book of Matthew. And
and I think that people, when you read that story, it's like it expounds upon, you know, what was going on during the time of Noah with Nephilim and all of that.
It describes the inside of a what sounds like a spaceship in the book of Enoch. It describes it perfectly.
Yeah.
But and it also describes, you know, Elijah being taken up, Ezekiel encountering a UFO. The way that Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed was from a weapon above that was shot down. But I mean, let's just talk about what we know biblically that has never happened before, that has only happened now. People say, well, there's wars and rumors of wars and pestilence and all that. Well, they're always been around. Yes, they have, but they have never been around globally all at the same time.
Yeah.
They've either happened at this time and this time, but now with the advent of COVID, it happened all together at the same time. Then you have the regathering of the Jews into Israel. Jesus said that once that happens, that generation will not pass away before I return. That biblical generation is coming up on its close right at the end of 2030, beginning of 2040. So you have the increase in natural disasters, the moral decline, moral relativism. We're living in that right now. In 2 Timothy says, people will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, and unholy. globalization, the rise of centralized power, NATO, right? It says that it also forced all people to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads so that they could buy and sell, and they could not do so unless they had the mark. And then you have knowledge.
Which, by the way, that was my central argument against, taking the vaccine. Not because I thought the vaccine was the mark, but I felt like it was a precursor to it. If I was going to allow I had a lot of reasons not to want to take it, but the biggest reason, to me warning sign, was when they tried to coerce us, when they said, take this or lose your job. And it happened to me. I was working, for the Navy, and the company I worked for was a medium-sized company, and the Biden mandate apply. He made it applicable to them, and so I was told, get vaccinated or lose your job.
You know what did it for me out here? They were doing jabs for joints. So they had all these damn weed dispensaries out here, and you can go get, your booster and your jab, whatever, and get free weed. I'm like, there's no way that if we needed
you could go get some chronic and then get some chronic heart disease.
Exactly. Now, the next one is the knowledge explosion. Of course, AI, everything we just talked about. We are in a day and an age where knowledge is more abundant than it has ever been. Then you have the signs in the heavens, in the skies, the signs in the heavens.
Yeah.
We're seeing that. We're seeing these things in the skies. We're seeing all of these things appear to us. It says their signs will be there will be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars and on earth, and the nations will anguish. And with the increasing UFO sightings, the blood moon, which is also prophesied to happen right before this takes place as well, that already occurred. The rise of the false prophets. How many false prophets are there? I can't count.
Yeah.
TD Jakes, Joe Olstein. Benny, forget his name. Benny Hinn. There's a million of these guys that literally call themselves prophets.
And by the way, I would also go so far as to say that there's a lot of false teachers that are not part of the charismatic world, but that, that scriptures talk about, that they will have a form of godliness, but deny its power.
Exactly.
And you see that in a lot of churches that basically don't believe in the power
all of the churches,
Holy Spirit.
And they have a church, and they have a Bible, and they preach around the things they don't want to believe in. I told you I left my church because they elected to have a woman pastor, and then when I challenged it, they said, well, we have a book, and I said, so do I. 2 Timothy, 1 Timothy, I have a book that talks about this very thing. And then here's a sign we can all point to. This is, for me, probably the biggest one. And that is in Revelation 16:12. It says, the sixth angel poured out his bowl in the great Euphrates, and its water dried up to prepare the way for the kings from the east. The kings from the east, that would be China, right? They are in the Far East, right? So that's how I would interpret that. But then if you take a look at the Euphrates River today, now remember, the Euphrates is referenced in Genesis. This has been around so long. Adam and Eve were on the earth when the Euphrates was still there. So the fact that it would dry up now, at the same time that China is coming near the end of its 100-year prophecy, that they believe they're going to run the world. They're going to rule the world within that 100 years. And it's called All Under Heaven. And they believe this. So all of these things are culminating at the same time. But here's the video showing the river Euphrates right now, and how it was, and how it is. That is it right now. This is the river Euphrates. Not how it is now. This is some years ago. And then they have a picture. They'll go to a video of it. They'll go to a picture of it today. and that's in 2021. It's even worse than that now. So here is I'm going to show you a quick little peek of my screen here. I mean, as you can see, it's not there. It's not there. There's a little creek running through it. It's been there since Adam and Eve were on this earth. And now it's just a creek. And now here is the only remnant that is left of the entire river Euphrates today. That's it. A strong wind could dry that up. Folks, we are in those times. We are in those times. There is no way that we're not. Global fear and anxiety, the apostasy and persecution, the Jews returning to the Holy Land. There's so many different signs that are coming true, including, what just happened with the beginnings of what happened with the Abraham Accords, right?
Yeah.
So it's Israel being attacked on October the 7th, which led to Hezbollah attacking from the north. And that is Ezekiel 38 and 39, that Israel gets attacked from the north. And now what will happen next, if everything is going to continue to come to fruition, is that the soldiers in Israel will post on Megiddo. They will create a military post, an outpost, where they guard the entrance to their land from the valley of Megiddo. And that's what we've known biblically throughout all time as the Battle of Armageddon. Well, about 2-3 months after October the 7th, that's exactly what Netanyahu did. He put posts, he put people right there on that hillside overlook. He's got an army battalion right there looking over the Megiddo Valley.
Yeah.
So we're
living in biblical times, man.
We're here.
Yep. When you hear people say it's going to be biblical, we're definitely living there, and that's why we got to keep our lamp lit, And I think that there's a lot of stuff going on. There used to be Jack Van Impe. Do you remember him?
Oh yeah, he used to sell the magic water.
Yeah. I liked one of the things I liked about his show, though, was that he would look at the news and he would tie it to biblical prophecy, which was, wasn't always accurate, but it was interesting. And I do see a lot of those things going on. I mean, there's some people talking about, like, Damascus has fallen, but it's not quite what the scripture says, in Revelations 16, 16:12 is where it talks about the Euphrates, but Damascus, there's a prophecy about it being, basically Isaiah 17:1. Behold, Damascus will cease to be a city and will become a heap of ruins. That's not what's happened yet. But you could easily see right now you have a powder keg, that is, of this loosely formed, group of HST, which has some, Islamist groups in it. You have, the Southern, Front and other groups that basically the Syrian Free Army, and they're all different, and they all have, but one of the problems is that now there's a balance of power that has shifted, and Turkey now has a lot more influence.
Yeah, which is bad, because Erdogan is not a good guy.
No, he's not. He's very, very much wanting to restore, the
caliphate,
and the Kurds, who have largely, been supported by the U.S. and they've been working for us basically.
Well, we also screwed them over too.
Yeah, but they've been working for us, routing the ISIS, out of
because they were
Syria.
To give everybody a history lesson, though, the Kurds were the original, what we now call Iraqi, right? Mm-hmm. And then the United Nations and all these people get together and they draw a circle on the map and steal what used to be Kurdasia, and now they call it Iraq. And they drove the Kurds into the north, and then Saddam Hussein was going about ethnically cleansing them and trying to kill them off.
Yeah. Well, and that's the problem, is that group, a lot of the other groups like HST and some of the other ones that Turkey supports are enemies with them. So this isn't over. I don't think there's peace in the region yet. Hopefully, at least for a period of time, maybe Trump can work a deal and get these people to play nice, because I do think that it would be nice to have some semblance of peace in the Middle East for a while. But we'll see.
Well,
I'm praying for the Christians that are there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Still there.
And if you're a Christian in that kind of an area, you're a Christian.
Yeah,
you're a Christian. These are the people that are a lot of. I mean, even in China, I remember hearing stories of people that would, they wouldn't have Bibles. They would memorize the books because they couldn't keep the Bible, so they would memorize every word, and they would come. They would get on trains and sit on the floors of the train and travel 500 miles and go into a secret house just to sit down and have a Bible study. So these people are people that really love the Lord. We do it in our spare time, right? This is, and that's the problem that I have, because listen, when I say I love the Lord, it's much more than I can ever explain. And I get, this is one of the subjects that is so near and dear to my heart, because I tend to think that the people that call themselves Christian in the United States, they love the idea of it. They love the traditionalism of it and that sort of thing. And it's like, well, my mom was a Catholic so I'm a Catholic. So you never went about learning about it. You never went about actually having faith in it. It's just a family tradition to you. It's just what you do on Sunday. And I can't stand that. I cannot stand that. And then when you have someone that, and I get this all the time, I get called a legalist. You ever been called that? A legalist? Because I believe the Bible literally, and I apply it literally, where you compromise all over the place. That makes me a legalist. No, that makes you lukewarm. And there's a big difference. And I have that problem with people. I asked one of the people that I really respect, I said, how do you feel about women preachers? And I was looking for, and this is a guy who's very influential, and I'm not going to say his name. It ain't about that, but he's very influential, especially in this town in Vegas. And he said, I have no problem with it if they're preaching the word of God. I'm like, but don't you realize that the Bible says this? Yeah. And then he goes, and then he says my famous words I hate next. Yeah, but I thank God. That's it right there. You lost me. I thank God. Those words right there, I feel God, I think God, are two. I cannot stand those phrases. Open your Bible up and see, what does God say about this? He tells you, you don't have to feel or think what God says or would do in a situation. He tells you either the entire Bible is true or the entire Bible is false. There's no middle ground. There are no gray areas. And it's not that I don't feel in that case like women may have a call to preach, but they are to preach to other women and to children. God gave us roles, and he put men at the head of church. Men are the head of the church. Like,
well, you're stepping on some dangerous ground with the whole, what is a woman nowadays?
Yeah, but what I'm saying, man, Christ is the head of church, like man is the head of woman, right? And it's not that we're to submit to one another. There's not a real power imbalance. It's an equal power. I explain it all the time. Like, every piece of the car can't be the engine, and it's every piece of the car is necessary to make it work.
In a marriage, right? It does say, wives, submit to your husband, but then also it does say
husbands, submit to your wives.
Yeah. And I think that's an important thing to understand. I do think that we've got a problem, today, and we've allowed our culture, to be influenced by, and and when I say our culture, I mean the culture of the church. Look, what happens outside the church, that's a separate matter. But we are to judge the church. We are to judge, based on what is biblical. And
Exactly.
and
If you're not a Christian, I'm not going to hold you to my standard.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm not talking to you. If you're not a Christian, this is not your conversation. I'm sorry. But if you someone who calls yourself a Christian, then I am judging you. I am telling you, because the Bible gives me it obligates me to, in Corinthians 5:12 tells us that we are to lovingly correct one another. Now, if my intention was to take the truth and hurt you with it, that's a sin in and of itself, because my motives are wrong. But if I'm telling you exactly what it says, you're not arguing with me.
Well, I'm curious as to what is I think we're seeing the makings of a great revival coming. I just read something about Bible sales right now. The majority of Bible sales are up, not due to Christians, but not due to older Christians buying Bibles, but new believers buying Bibles. So I think we're seeing something is stirring, but I don't see it in the church necessarily. Like, I think we are in a post church as we know it, sort of time period. And not to say that, that the churches won't exist in the way they do now, but I think we're going to see a lot more people, that are gathering in their homes and gathering with small groups again. And, so it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out, because I think the church failed us during COVID largely.
Very, very much so.
They shut their doors, and I think God was very displeased with that. And I think that, he's cut off a lot of the dead wood.
They bent their knee, and it showed that either you have faith in God or you have faith in the government. But there is no way in hell you got faith in both. So, and you definitely don't put the government over God. So, anyone who calls themselves a Christian, that's who that conversation is for. If you're not a Christian, then that wasn't for you. And here's the thing about it too, before we get out of here. If anyone does not believe in God, if anyone doesn't live that life, they don't have that faith in Jesus Christ, and you don't believe the Bible, you should still thank God for the people that do. Because if it wasn't for those people, you would not have the rights and privileges that you enjoy today. Because our Constitution was taken largely from the Judeo-Christian principles that are written in that book. So when it says we are endowed by our Maker with inalienable rights, what do you think he's referring to? Because I love when people say it's not referring to God. Well, what is he talking about? Of course he's referring to God. He said endowed by our Maker with inalienable rights. So
our founders understood the concept of natural law, meaning nature's God, and that anybody that has taken even just a basic course on law learns that in their first year. They understood natural law as being nature's God, and as the creator. And so the fact is atheism is actually a fairly new concept.
I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. Can you imagine? Right. Can you imagine all of the things we just so happen to be here? I have on the same planet that the food that we need to eat grows on. The air we need to breathe is there. We have a male and a female. We have, I mean, just all of the things.
It takes just as much faith, if not more, to believe, I think, in atheism. Now, I'm not opposed to people who are what I would call agnostic, who are searching. They're on their search. They haven't discovered or haven't found an experience with God yet. I can respect that,
but they're not so dishonest to discount your faith at the same time.
But for somebody to have the faith to say that there is no creator when even science shows that, we've got I think when DNA was discovered, I think that really kind of shut everything down, because every difference that there is between, say, you and me has happened due to, not to new genes being created, but due to genes breaking. So in other words, you're evolving.
We started higher. Yeah, we started higher.
Evolving, not evolving. And that implies intelligent design.
And you can tell that in plant life too. You
That's
can
right.
clone a plant, but so many times before it just breaks down. And that's what's happening. We're not getting better. We're devolving. The DNA structure of man is not as strong, is not as sturdy as it used to be. It's breaking down. If I leave a tricycle in the middle of my studio and I come back 10,000 years from now, it's not going to be a motorcycle.
Exactly.
It's still going to be a tricycle. Yeah. So that I don't believe any of that. We came from apes stuff, and the funny thing is that he didn't either before he died. Darwin denounced all of his own theories before he died. So guys, we're gonna get out of here. Time to take a break for the rest of the night, and the work week comes early tomorrow. And I'm not feeling the best, so I'm definitely gonna kick back a little earlier tonight and put my feet up. Don't know what's going on lately, but dealing with it, a little bit of lethargic going on, a little swelling, things like that. I'm getting older, man, and I just do too much, and I need a Sabbath, and I really don't get much of one anymore. So I think I'm gonna have to start programming one in. So guys, thank you so much for taking the time to spend with us tonight and hanging out with us, and we really, really do appreciate it. And as usual, the silent majority, you got to stop being silent and stand your ground. We will see you next week on the Woke Detox, guys. Have a great night.
God bless.
In a small town we're free. This is the Patriots Prayer.
This is Bryson Gray, and you are watching the Patriots Prayer.
On the Patriots Prayer Network. Thank you all.
Breaking the chains that try to bound. Out on the fields where hard work's done, they fight the fight till the work's well won. No more silence in the heartland's call. Stand up strong, let the weak ones fall. The detox starts with Eddie and Nate, battling lies, exposing hate. Woke ideologies crumble and fade when real men step into the parade. Clear eyes and an iron will, they take on tides that others fear still. Voices of the field, the farm, the street. Two men stand and won't accept defeat. Against the storm of cancel waves, they light the fire, legends and braves. In a world trying to dim the flame, they keep it burning, they make a name. The detox starts with Eddie and Nate, battling lies, exposing hate. Woke ideologies crumble and fade when real men step into the parade.